Hello and welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm Jeremy Qualls, your host today. Our co-host Tate Matthews and baseball expert is on assignment. We have a real baseball expert here today, Chad Kirby, the head coach and athletic director of Summit High School. Coach Kirby, thanks for joining us. This is the first show of the spring. Baseball is heating up. Right now, you guys are sitting at 13-5, 8-1, tops of District 11 AAA. And those that don't know anything about 11 AAA in baseball, it could quite possibly be one of the toughest districts in the state. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah. It's every year there's going to be one or two teams that, have a shot at winning the whole thing. I mean, if you look past 2 years, Brentwood's been state champion and state runner-up. So, yeah, it's
And the year before that, you guys were in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Ravenwood's been there.
Ravenwood, Centennial, a little bit of everybody.
Well, you guys are sitting at 8-1, like we said. Franklin 6-3, Brentwood 5-3. Right now, sitting in the second and third slots. You've already played Brentwood. You split with those guys. I'll ask you just in a minute to give me a report on all these as a scattering report, if you will. But let's talk about your team first. Chris McElvain, a household name here in the WCS Sports Conference. Vanderbilt commit, 21 innings pitched, 47 strikeouts with a .00 ERA.
It's pretty good.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah. Now Chris is having a great year. He really is. He worked real hard this offseason. He was dominant as a freshman. Sophomore year, maybe it was the sophomore slump or whatever, but you say that. But when we got to the district tournament, he no-hit Dixon County, and it was going to be hard for him to repeat what he did his freshman year, sophomore year. Then that last year, he got hit on the finger, and it kept him out basically the whole year of being able to pitch for us. I mean, he still hit over almost 500 last year with the finger issue, and now this year he's rocking and rolling. I mean, he's throwing hard, he's throwing strikes, he's leading the team in hitting. He catches for us. I mean, he's having a great year. When you look at Chris's career, you go back to the 8th grade, everybody knew Chris. He was set up for glory in this thing. How hard is it for a kid to really stay on that trajectory and have the success? Because, sometimes it's hard to live up to that. And I think Chris has lived up to that because it's really tough. We're putting him on a pedestal. And I say we, the community, the people around that see this and see Chris playing, it's pretty tough. Yeah, his freshman year, he had committed to Vanderbilt before he even stepped foot on the field for us. So he was already ready to go. So we had a meeting early on, and we kind of just laid it out and said, look, especially this first year, you don't have to be the guy. You just be one of the guys, and because we had a great senior class that year. And that's what he did. Now, as the season progressed, he turned into the guy. He and Will they dominated the whole second half of the season. But yeah, how he stays on track, that probably goes to a lot about just his upbringing, his family, his parents. They keep all their boys, level-headed. It's not going to be too much about them. It's going to be about the team and just working hard and that sort of thing. So it's nothing really we did. It's more of just what kind of family he comes from.
And he's not the last.
No, he's the first.
Right?
He's the first.
Oh, he's got two younger brothers.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay, nice.
Ethan's a 8th grader. Then Evan, he's 11, I think, 10 or 11. I forget how old he is.
Well, in this business, you got to have more than one arm, obviously, to get as deep as you could possibly want and potentially make a run at state championship. Your second of your third arms is Blake Money. Blake Money is an LSU commit. He is a junior, 22 innings pitched, 35 strikeouts, a .63 ERA. So you go Chris McElvain one day and you come back with him, man. And you talk about Blake. Blake is what, 6'6"? Yeah, 6'6", yeah. Bringing it way up here, bringing it down and throwing BBs at you. I mean, that's tough to face.
Yeah, and he's hard thrower. He's got good off speed, and this year he's commanding the strike zone, and he's developed a lot in the past year. I know he worked with some people this summer down in Atlanta, and it really helped his progression and just his overall ability. And
coming into this year, and he worked extremely hard in the weight room. I mean, he went from kind of being he's going to get mad for me saying this, but it's true, kind of being a bad body kid to not a bad body. I mean, he looks good now. I mean, he looks like an athlete. He looks big, and that's kind of sounds silly when we just said he's 6'6", but he looks big
Right.
and athletic now, and it's all the work he's put in, it's starting to pay off.
That frame is filled. That 6'6" frame is
Yeah.
filled out. Now, Chris plays what when he's not pitching?
He catches for us.
He catches. So that's an interesting take. I meant to ask that while we were on him. In the past, he was the shortstop starting off. I think you moved him maybe to second at one point in time, correct? And now he's catching. What's the thought process behind that? Because he's got a great arm, he can throw people out, or what? He understands how to make the calls as far as pitching, or what?
Well, early on, he was a catcher first.
Oh, okay.
Growing up, and basically when he committed to Vanderbilt, I wasn't going to be the guy that wrecks his arm and tears him up and abuses him or whatever. So I just basically told him, you're not catching anymore. Your future's with pitching. And so basically I kind of told him the shin guards were gone. He kind of came to us late this fall, said, Coach, I really want to start catching again. It was a need we had. I said, all right, buddy. So,
A lot of people equate that position to being like the point guard on a basketball team. So go through your coaching philosophy. Now you've got Chris McElvain, who you've had around the program for 4 years now, Vandy commit, super smart, intelligent, understands the game probably as good as anybody. How much interaction do you have during the actual game with the catcher? I mean, are you calling pitches? I know some people do different philosophies. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, maybe certain situations you do, but have you had that moment where you look over and say, oh, he's got it, he picked it up, he knew exactly what you wanted him to do?
We don't call pitches anymore. We've kind of put the ownership on those guys. I mean, they know what they want to do, but we do have a rule: you're going to own it, and they've owned every pitch, and Chris does a great job of calling the game, but as far as communication during the game, I mean Hey, Chris is basically it's kind of trying to help our hitters. How much off the plate's this guy giving us, or whatever, just so we can relay it to our hitters, so they'll know when they get up there. But no, it's their game. We let them have it.
Well, in the world of analytics and whatnot, people like to chart and people go back historical data and say this person doesn't like this pitch. This person. Do you think we overthink it sometimes?
No.
I mean, because I know back in Lewisburg, back in the days, you weren't doing any kind of analytics. You just up there throwing and doing the thing, right?
Well, yeah, but nobody likes it 93 miles an hour in high school. So
That's a good point.
so yes,
You could overthink that real easy,
yeah.
right?
So we chart, but I could show you my charts right now, and it just says strikeout. I mean, it really does. We don't have good information at this point in the season on people just because they're doing such a good job with just limiting contact. I used to be a guy that, get a ground ball, let them pop it up, whatever, and I'm not that guy anymore. I'm like, heck yeah, strike another one out. That's one less ball we're going to miss if we're striking them out.
Well, switching back over to Blake, when Blake's not pitching, he's first base,
He's
right?
plays first base.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And Blake is a left or righty?
Righty.
And then Chris is obviously a righty.
Yeah.
So then your third piece of the puzzle here on your pitching roster is Bryson Russell, Chattanooga State, commit, 20 innings pitched, 37 strikeouts, 1.05 ERA.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to coach when you got guys doing what they're
Makes
doing
you look like
right
you're
now.
brilliant.
Yeah, I'm very smart this year. Yeah.
That's a lot of strikeouts, Coach.
Yeah.
Have you ever looked back on your?
We've got, this year, we looked it up the other day, and the reason we went back and looked it up, when we played Page a few days ago, Bryson struck out 15. We turned around and played Centennial the next night, and Chris had 16 strikeouts. So, that's 31 strikeouts in 2 games. That's very impressive. So
That's got to be.
after the game, we started looking at our overall stats for the entire pitching staff, because it's not just these 3 guys. I mean, all of our guys are doing good right now, but we've got 191 strikeouts this year. I think we averaged it up. I think it's about 11 a game.
And in 18 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That has to be. I mean, I don't know that you keep up with records and record books, but that has to be a top 3 performance on a yearly basis already, and you still got plenty more games.
Yeah, we after the Centennial game, we looked it up. We had 187, and last year at the end of the season we had 176.
So Bryson, righty or lefty?
Righty.
And he plays what position when
Shortstop.
he's not? So he's your shortstop. So you've got your basically your infield cover right there. Let's talk about the rest of your team. Let's talk about the guys that back these guys up, and we'll get to the bullpen and relief folks here in just a moment. Let's go around the horn. You got first base Blake Money. Second base is
Colton Jordan, senior. He started probably 3/4 of the time last year for us, but he's another hard worker. He's been with us all 4 years, and it's his time now. And just a good hard nose. He's one of our main leaders too. He doesn't get all the press and all that sort of thing, but he's kind of like the glue for us.
and then you've got third base.
Sophomore Alex Runk play there. Also, when Bryson pitches, Cameron Lee, he'll play shortstop. He does some DHing for us as well. He's another sophomore. Left field, got a senior, Brody McGill. And there's been a McGill on Summit's baseball team now. I think this is the 7th year because his brother was a part of us as well. Center field will go Cole Thomason Jr. And then right field is another one of our top pitchers is Cole Hendricks. Cole's probably our top reliever and did a great job for us as a sophomore last year. He's the guy that comes in and helps these guys with these ERAs because when he comes in, he saves the inning for them, and that sort of thing. And then we got another left-handed pitcher, Garrett Sims. He's done a nice job for us this year as well.
So those that may not know or have not been to a baseball game in a while, talk about the pitch count, things like that, things that go into play when you say, all right, we're going to pull this guy, or we're putting this person in, or we've got to, this is their count. Take us through that process.
Top number pitch count really never comes into play. I think it's 120 pitches. I mean, maybe one time. I think when we were in the state tournament in 2016, we let one of our guys go just to see if he could get the complete game. He didn't. We pulled him out. But 120 is the pitch limit. You can't throw more than 120 pitches in one game. The big thing is,
and then the rest on the backside of that is
4 days.
4 days.
If you go to 120.
So that's why it's important. We were talking about, some people have two arms, and they get shorthanded when it comes tournament time because you've got to have those third arms on that rest day the way it's set up.
Oh yeah.
To get them all the way through.
Yeah. If you throw 25 pitches, if you throw more than 25 pitches, you can't throw the next day. So you got to have a day's rest, and then it just I don't know them right off the top of my head, but there's a formula there. If after 25, it's a day's rest. After 55, it's 2 days rest. After, I think 75, maybe 3 days rest. I'm don't quote me on those numbers because I don't. I literally have to look at my sheet every day because I forget what it is every time. But yeah, we've got 5 guys, possibly 6. We got a freshman that's doing pretty good for us, right? Max Fell. But we've got 5 that. Everybody in the state would love to have any of the 5 of them.
Well, in the AAA Baseball Writers Association, I know you'll take this with a grain of salt. It's still nice to know that you guys are currently ranked in the top 10 in the state in AAA, which is an awesome feat right now. But at the end of the year, you don't care anything about the rankings because you want to be holding that trophy. But you are the only, if I'm not mistaken, I think there may be one other Middle Tennessee team in that list. Everything's East and West, which is kind of odd this year.
Well, I don't know. I don't really know what they go off of to even rank that. I mean, there's some teams that have beat us that are thinking, why are they ahead of us? And,
right.
I think it's probably a little bit on potential of what we could do. I mean, I was talking on the radio the other day and told him, I said, look, we have the ability to lose every game that's left on our schedule. We really do. So it's fun. It's neat. It's okay. It is what it is right now, but it doesn't mean much at all.
You look at your remaining schedule. You have 12 games left. Independence, the border battle coming up. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Give me a little quick synopsis on Indy. Everybody knows, if you don't know, you will know about Robert Hassel. This guy's a little different. I asked Coach McClory once, I said, what is the difference between him and everybody else? How do people go crazy about one kid? Is it the ability? Is it the power? Is it this? He said, you could close your eyes and let 12 kids bat. And he said, and when this kid bats, it sounds different. So there's obviously something there about this young man who was voted, you go back, as a freshman was voted, got the Wilco Baseball Player of the Year. And I don't know that you agree or disagree with that, but I'm just asking you, what makes these kids different?
Well, with Hassel?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Mike said. I mean, it's coming into his freshman year. I think he first committed to Tennessee, and JD and I were talking in the dugout, and he was up to the plate, and I said, asked JD the same question you asked me. I said, now how are these colleges on him so fast that know, and the pitch was coming, and he hits one off the right center wall, and he said, that right there. He said, that's it, because you're talking about his freshman year, he probably had 160 pounds and just all kinds of power. I mean, you don't.
What is that though? What? I mean,
he's just a dude, man. You don't.
He has it.
Yeah, you don't.
I mean, it's hard to explain, isn't it?
Yeah.
You try to get, people ask, you start looking at these, the Final Four and these teams in the tournament, and people are like, what makes that kid different? It's just they have something about them. And the baseball is no different. And that power that you're speaking of is only going to be just leaps and bounds, because by the time he gets on a nutritional plan and a weight plan and he gets older and he starts putting on that weight, and that power comes even more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's going to be just like everybody else. I mean, just like you and I. When you turn 18, something happens. I mean, and you just start getting bigger and stronger and everything. Oh, yeah. He's got a future, that's for sure.
And then after about 21 for us, he'll keep going that way. Me and you were going downhill.
Yeah.
You start looking at, you look at some of these past guys, the Bryce Dentons, Will Dalton. Speaking of Will Dalton, one of the finest young men you'll ever come across in anything, athletics, academics, just a fine guy, great consummate teammate for your team, playing, what an awesome story. Doesn't get a whole lot of offers. Matter of fact, I don't know that he got any offers. Goes to Columbia State.
He had a few.
Had a few offers.
Yeah.
And then goes to Columbia State, blows it up, goes to Florida, and the rest is history, man. This guy's had an unbelievable career. He's now in his senior year at Florida. Can you give us an update on him? Have you been trying to keep up with
A little bit. He's just a junior, though. He's not a senior yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But,
he only played 1 year at Columbia State.
Yeah. He's had a slow start to this season. He struggled a little bit. He's not having near the success power numbers that he did last year, but that's probably, the more you face somebody, the more you figure them out. So they've probably got enough,
They chart their stuff.
Yeah, so they know where his weaknesses are, and they're finding them. And like I said, he started slow. Talked with him a little bit, but he'll be fine. He'll turn it on here at the end of the year. But their team's struggling as well. It's not. I mean, they're not the same Florida team we've been used to seeing.
You've got other college guys. The name escapes me. I know you've got one at Freed. Freed Hardman did a pitcher at one.
Reed Johnson.
Yeah,
well, he ended up transferring to Ball State. He's at Ball now. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's early on he was doing well. Like I said, once we get going, it's hard for me to keep up with everything. But yeah, he's been pretty successful.
Who else do you have in the college ranks that you?
Wade LaPiccolo's still playing. He's at let's see,
Transylvania.
He's playing there. He'll be a sophomore. He's a sophomore this season.
Surprised I knew that.
What's that? Transylvania?
See?
Yeah. Then we got. Oh man, you put.
This
me
is
on
all
the,
coming off that Final Four team. All these guys.
You put me on the spot here.
Dalton.
Now.
Wade
Davis,
was the third.
Yeah.
Wade was the third baseman on that team.
Davis Jackson's at Trevecca.
Shortstop, wasn't he? Second base.
Pitcher. Yeah, and he having a great start of the season. Then he tore his elbow up, so he had to have Tommy John. So he's.
And
he's down
what year is he in college?
He's just a freshman. Yeah, this will be his first year. Yeah.
Talk about your coaching staffs. I like to look at we were talking about offline, Zach Hudson was a longtime assistant coach of yours and now at head coach at Nolensville. So talk about your coaching staff currently and who you have.
Well, JD's still with us. JD and I have been together now, even back in our Ravenwood days. But he's still with us.
We should have brought him on. He's a character.
Yeah. He probably ain't up yet. Then we got Brandon Nolan. Brandon came in when Coach Hudson and Coach Pope, when they got head coaching jobs. Coach Nolan came in to take their position, and this year we hired Russ Bratton to come in and kind of help out with the pitchers. He played at Memphis, and he's a non-faculty guy, but he does a good job with them.
So, for those that don't know, you played at Middle Tennessee State back in the day, MTSU, before they changed over to whatever their new mascot is. I've gone blank now.
No, well, they're still the Blue Raiders.
They didn't have the horse at that time
we
frame.
did.
You?
Yeah, I was there. I was there
right.
for the unveiling.
So you played at Middle. You've got a guy on Memphis. So JD obviously had some professional experience.
Yeah, he played in the Orioles organization. Coach Nolan played at UT Martin.
So you could quite possibly have the best coaching staff, the smartest, best coaching staff in the mid-state, right?
Best looking.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you take all this. How do you harness that? What is your specialty area? When you go in practice, say, all right, I've got this. I know being a head coach, you overlook everything, but you say, this is my thing. JD, that's yours. Go do this. What is that?
Well, defensively, I take the infielders primarily, the middle infielders. JD will work with corners, but his primary thing, he works with the hitters. Coach Nolan will work with the hitters as well as he handles all the catching, and then Coach Bratton does outfielders and pitchers. So but I mean, nobody's trying to hide anything. If somebody knows something or sees something, we're going to go and we're going to coach that kid up. I mean, but for practice organization purposes, they have their areas that they're responsible for.
It's one of the things I love most. Being a basketball guy, you go out to these baseball practices, and I don't know what people think. Maybe I was the only one, the idiot of this group, but you see a lot of hitting stuff off the tees in the batting cages and whatnot. But when you get into that fielding part, and you've got, I can remember going up to Brentwood's practice, and they got two guys. Danny and them at Raymond was doing the same thing. You hit from both sides of the plate, and you've got drill going this way, drill going this way, all these things taking place, people moving. It's pretty fun to watch. An organization that has to take place to have a really good practice and to teach all those moments of not just the drill work, but actually why you're doing that drill work in particular. It translates. The more you do it, the repetitions, it translates. And in today's game basketball, there's timeouts. The game is totally fluid back and forth. There's things that could change in a heartbeat, just like baseball. But when do you have to do a lot of coaching in a game, or does it happen and you just?
Nah, we try not to. We try not to do a whole lot of in-game coaching. Maybe a brief cue or something like that. But if we're trying to change or work on something in the game, man, we're getting behind real quick. I mean. So basically, and I used this analogy a long time ago with somebody. It's we drive the bus in practice. When it's the game, we give the keys to the kids, and they drive the game, and we try to get after it like that. Now, obviously, there's going to be a few substitution things, pinch runner things, change pitchers type things that we get involved with, and there'll be, hey, what'd you see here? And JD will talk with the hitters, and sometimes I'll talk with the pitcher or whatever. Or if they kick the ball, we may say, hey, look, next time that happens, approach it this way. Don't sit back on it. I mean, just little small things like that. But as far as in-game strategy, it's nothing like football or basketball. It's basically
You'll call when they're at bat. You'll call the play, or if there's a hit, whatever. And then you said already that. You don't really call the pitches unless you really necessarily want something that you might have seen. So it's on them. Roll it. Let's play baseball, man.
Yep.
Let's just play baseball. Well, it's a pretty cool philosophy. Let's talk about something that I like to talk about when we have guests, football, basketball, and I think baseball is no different. The recruiting in high school baseball the landscape of that has changed tremendously over the years, particularly when we played. You had your summer baseball league and you might play quite a few games, but now these kids are playing upwards to how many games? I mean, it can.
Once you get to the high school age, it's basically 8 weekends. It's 8 weekends, so that's usually 4 games, at least.
This
4
is
games
non-high school related.
Correct, but I'm talking about once you get to high school age, like when they're
right. I get you,
younger.
Yeah.
Shoot, you could probably play 70-something
and
games.
Yeah.
But once you get to the high school age, it's usually from Memorial Day basically till, with football starting and everything, about that second, third week of July, people start shutting it down, but then they'll pick it back up in the fall. So they'll probably get 50 games.
Baseball seems to be, too, the earliest commitments, the earliest recruiting period. Recruiting period is not the right word. The earliest recruiting happening in the three major sports. Baseball, you see it at a younger age. That 7th, 8th grade, going into freshman year, you got kids committing, things happening. Yeah. You don't see that in those other sports. Going football, you don't even develop until they get older. Basketball, you may have a few special Zions come through, but as far as baseball, that's kind of a normal place right now.
It is. It's almost like if you hadn't committed by your sophomore year, you're probably not going to play. And it's sad to say, but especially for your big time Division I, like your SEC type schools, yeah, they're not doing a whole lot of junior senior recruiting. They've already got their guys signed up because they're when you're 14 years old, there are some can't miss kids.
Right.
He's 6'6" right now, and he's throwing the ball 89 miles an hour. That 6'6" is going to translate to 95, 96 once he gets a little older. So that's how it happens.
What are the chances? In my only experience with this and all, and because in the 5 years I've been here was with Bryce, right? 33rd pick in the draft. What separates that person, right? So we've talked about Hassel, we've got McIlvain, we've talked about all these kids, Blake, Money. Where does the pros come in and say, all right, we're going to offer this amount of money? What is the cutoff? Is there a formula to this? You're throwing 89. If you could ever get to 91, 92, we're going to take you. Or, what is that? Where does that? We know the difference of a kid being special, but what is the difference to being okay, he's going to go to college because he don't have another choice, or this kid's going to get drafted? What's the difference there?
Well, the way it kind of happens is they'll talk with the kid. These kids have advisors. They do. These big time. They're not agents. There's nothing illegal going on, but they have advisors, and they'll sit down and they'll have in-home visits, and they'll say, "What for you to sign? What's it going to take?" And then the kid will give them a dollar amount, and the scout basically says you're not worth that, or he said, "Okay, if we do it, are you coming?" So there we go. That's kind of how it works.
Those advisors missed my house.
Yeah, mine too.
Waiting on that phone call, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. That business has got, it really is. There is some very positive sides, and then when you get into these other sports you start talking about, there are some real dark areas that these things go into where if you get the wrong person coming and advising you, as you're using that word, you can fall into a money pit where a lot of people are spending money thinking they're getting something out of it.
Yeah.
They're getting nothing out of
it. These aren't like
total different.
These aren't recruiting agencies or anything. These are they are agents, but they're not agents for the high school kids. They're just advisors. Hey, we think you're going to be worth this. Are you willing to sign for this? And that sort of thing.
Well, there's an 8th grader coming up through the system. It's going to probably get knocks at your door. Jace Kirby. That's going to be interesting to see. I know you look forward to coaching your own son. I can't wait to see it too. But you've got a great team. You're sitting in first in 11 AAA. Best of luck to you the rest of the way. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Goes by fast when you're having fun. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on WCS Sports Connection.